Am I the a-hole for being angry that my roommate was sleeping under my bed for months without telling me? I, 24M, have lived with my roommate Carl, 24M, for 2 years. A few months into rooming with him, he told me that he was pansexual. I said, okay, cool. I'm not interested in that personal information, nor am I judgmental. I said, alright. A few times over the last year, he's asked me if I've ever considered experimenting with other men. I said, no. Also, I said I didn't feel comfortable with him asking me such a personal question. It's not like we're close friends, we're only roommates by happenstance basically. Anyway, every time I said this, he basically said, we'll see. And I was like, what? Well, last night I had a horrifying experience. I heard a noise under my bed. It was movement. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I heard it again. I thought, oh god, is it a mouse or a rat or something? My god, this was like 3 AM. So I got out of bed and looked under with my phone flashlight. Now, this here was the most startling moment of my life. I guess I'm lucky because I've never, before this moment, felt true terror and fear as a physical sensation. But I was completely jolted. There, under my bed, was my roommate, staring wide-eyed at me, and he screeched at me when I looked under the bed. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. I then just started hearing, sorry, as my roommate crawled out from under the bed, crying and apologising over and over. I was so creeped out and afraid that I ran out of the apartment in my pyjamas. I'm sorry, but to scream in your face when you're tentatively looking under the bed for maybe a rat or something, that must have been absolutely terrifying. There was a Dunkin' Donut that was open 24/7 a few blocks away, so I just sat in there with a decaf and a breakfast sandwich with my heart thundering away. My roommate kept texting me asking to talk. I ignored it. In the text, however, he found a way to horrify me even further. He confessed that he'd been sleeping under my bed a few nights a week for 3 or 4 months, and that he was doing it to get closer to me and psychically saturate each other. The f***? That's absolute nonsense, but it sounds so creepy. I waited for him to go to work and I ran into the apartment, got my essentials and left. I'm currently crashing with a buddy. Our lease is up in 1 month. My intention is simply not to renew. This dude is blowing up my phone. And I'm getting texts from other people, some friends of mine and some bozos who are friends with him. He's going around telling people that I shamed him and I'm rejecting his apologies. Some people are claiming that I'm overreacting and invalidating his feelings. Most people agree he was improper, but think I should work it out with him and give him a second chance because he's sensitive. I feel like I'm losing my mind and I'm seriously 20% convinced I'm experiencing a long lucid dream of some sort and I'm wondering if I'm going to wake up or I'm in a coma or something because this is so insane to me. So, am I the a-hole or is everyone around me a f***ing nut? Definitely not the a-hole. You're lucky he was only psychically saturating you in your sleep. Win Equivalent puts it excellently in the comments. Yes, you did shame him. Yes, you rejected his apologies. Why? Because he crossed so many boundaries of common decency, privacy, and basic human respect. This is the behaviour that a predator or stalker would do. Whatever trust you had with Carl has been broken, shattered into 1,000 pieces. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for cutting ties with my sister after her husband touched my daughter at a sleepover? Yesterday night, my daughter, AITA, was at my sister's house for a sleepover with her cousin. When I picked her up today, she broke down crying and told me that late at night, her uncle, my sister's husband, came into the room and touched her and her cousin, let's just say inappropriately, and forced them to be quiet while he was doing it. I called my sister and she said she had no idea that was happening and that she was so sorry. I told her that she was supposed to protect my daughter. In that, she failed. I'll never forgive her and she's no longer my sister. My parents called me and told me that cutting ties with her was unnecessary because she didn't know. Am I the a-hole? In my opinion, it's a bit rash to put so much of the blame on your sister. We're led to believe she was totally unaware of this kind of behaviour from her husband. What matters now, I think, is how she reacts, because there is no going back from doing something like that, not only to your kid, but your sister's kid as well. OP puts a comment saying, "I drove my daughter to the police station and I filed a report." Mrs. Kuro leaves probably my favourite response to this in the comments. That's good, let them handle it. However, if your sister truly didn't know, how is she supposed to protect your daughter, and her own daughter, from something she had no idea was happening? Take a few days to process and move past the anger towards her that should be directed towards her husband, and then ask to meet her for a coffee. Have your mum watch her daughter. Then ask if she's divorcing her husband and filing for full custody now that she does know. If the answer to either is no, then cut ties. But give her the benefit of the doubt and a chance. Am I the a-hole for lacking emotional intelligence? Me and my friends, all 19M, were sitting around and talking as we do anytime we're free together. As our discussion continued, one of my friends remarked that he saw a new pizza place open in our city called Susan's Pizza. Susan is the name of my friend's ex. Our friend group has been tightly knit for years now, so we know a lot about each other's lives and make jokes about exes or crushes a lot. So I make a joke about, well, we can't invite friend to hang out there. It was light-hearted and I didn't mean anything by it, and my friend responded with a joke of his own about a girl I used to like. And so we kind of just had a back and forth until he snapped and got angry at me, saying something like, "Yeah, you know that emotional intelligence you have? Maybe you should use it." After he said that, the vibe quickly soured and we all just kind of went quiet. He sort of distanced himself and the rest of us continued talking about something else until it was time to go. It feels like there's a wall between us now, and I really can't stand the suffocating atmosphere. Here's the thing, I have a very hard time recognising emotions through implication, tone, body language, or other social cues. This is something that I've communicated to them, and is a major insecurity of mine. I would have much rather preferred he'd just say, "Hey man, can you not?" instead of up the ante and then explode. Instead, he decided to belittle me and make fun of an insecurity of mine. From my perspective, it's as if you go up to someone who has a weak sense of smell but smelled bad and snap at them for it, then say, "You know that sense of smell you have? Use it." When you know their sense of smell is weak and that it's an insecurity of theirs. That's really not the same as this situation. I get that my social ineptitude isn't his problem, but it is if we're friends and I can't tell that I'm crossing the line based off cues. I need to be told I am with proper communication. Look, when you're bantering in a friend group and you're insulting each other jokingly, sometimes you'll offend someone, fine. It is hard to know where the ceiling is when you're in a group of guys like that. The issue is that you've now upset him and obviously you know you've upset him. So just apologise. To be honest, this comment your friend made wasn't even insulting your emotional intelligence. It sounded like he was saying you have it but aren't using it because you're insulting him. I think it's a pretty tactful way of telling you to stop. Rockology Adam, I think, has the best response to this. You're the a-hole. You've put a lot of onus on what should be your own responsibility for your own behaviour on your friends here. Your friend was out of line for poking at your insecurity, but by your post, this was after a lot of back and forth. So why did it go back and forth? Why didn't it stop after the first one? It sounds like if you'd said your bit and he said his bit and you left it at that, then there would not have been a problem. So why did it escalate? It's fair to ask your friends to tell you when you've gone too far, but the issue here is that once you've gone too far, you're already there. Expecting your friends to monitor you and advise you when you approach the line instead of when you've gone over it is especially hard if your standard socialising is sitting around shooting the shit. The standard is going to be so close to the line that the warning is going to feel like exclusion from the conversation. So you don't get the cues around you. Then you have to set your own guidelines for how you're going to interact here. The first step I recommend, the one that works for me, is to recognise that if you start, you don't finish. You give one, you get one, you let it slide. You can't have the last word. You can't go for the one-upmanship because you don't know where to stop it. get one in good and let it ride. You're part of it and you're taking responsibility for your own escalations. OP responds to this, sort of ignoring most of what was said, and he says, I don't understand how I should have known to stop. Rockology Adam responds again, basically saying, you can't go until someone tells you to stop. You need to figure out a rule to follow that will prevent you from going too far and needing to be reminded. Then Random Derpbot responds with an analogy that's quite poetic. They say, I agree with this take. OP can't smell smoke, yet enjoys tossing lit matches around piles of dry leaves, then feels hurt because no one yelled fire before he got burned. Okay, last post for today. Am I the a-hole for making height jokes at my friend until he snapped and cried? I, 22F, have this close friend, Nick, 28M, and he's really short, like 5'2". We've been friends for a while and we get on great. I also kind of have a crush on him. He's really sweet, handsome, talented, and fun to hang out with. I've always been the type of person to joke around with people. My family and friends constantly tease each other and it's never meant to hurt anyone. It's just how we show affection. For example, I'm a tall woman, 5'10", and super skinny, so growing up, my parents used to make jokes about it all the time. They'd call me Beanpole and say things like, careful with those low ceilings, or put some coins in your pockets when you go out, it's really windy. And when I was younger, I'd cry because the jokes really hurt. My parents would then tease me and call me a crybaby, which made me toughen up over time. Now I'm used to it and height jokes just roll off me. My friends still poke fun at me, calling me Slenderman as a nickname or saying that they could perform a skeleton anatomy lesson on me, and I always laugh along. Since Nick is the shortest person in our group, I've made a lot of height related jokes around him. Stuff like calling him fun-sized, asking if he needed any help reaching something, or saying, where'd Nick go? Oh, there you are, way down there. He usually laughed and joked back, so I thought it was fine. For example, he'd tease me by saying, how's the weather up there? And I'd respond by picking him up and saying, I'll show you. It felt playful and harmless, and I figured if he wasn't okay with it, he wouldn't joke with me too, or he wouldn't laugh. The other day, we were at a semi-formal event and Nick showed up in a really nice suit. He looked sharp. Honestly, he looked really fine and I might have been a little flustered by how good he looked. So, naturally, I couldn't resist cracking a joke. I saw him and said, looking good, boss baby. Everyone burst out laughing and Nick laughed too, at first. But then I noticed his expression change and he got really quiet. A little while later, he just walked off without saying anything. I went to check on him and that's when I found him sitting alone, crying. I was completely caught off guard. I asked him what was wrong and he finally admitted that the height jokes had been bothering him for a long time and the boss baby one had sent him over the edge. He said he's always felt insecure about his height but didn't want to bring it up because he didn't want to seem overly sensitive or kill the vibe. I felt awful. I apologised right away and stopped making any jokes about his height after that. I never meant to hurt him and I thought we were just having fun, maybe even flirting a little. Now things between us are weird and awkward and I don't know if I've completely ruined the friendship or any chance of something more. So am I the a-hole for making those jokes and not realising how much they hurt him? It goes without saying that not everyone likes insult humour, and it's pretty negligent to assume everyone will. But you need to understand that being 5'10" for a girl isn't the same as being 5'2" for a guy. In today's society, being that short for a guy would make you feel very undesirable, and it's something you have totally no control over. Height for a girl isn't even a considerable factor. Then to walk into a formal event looking the best you'll ever look and being instantly objectified to nothing but how short you are. Really terrible, honestly. Empty Nest has a good response in the comments. You were picked on by your parents to the point it made you cry. Then, knowing it hurts, you turn around and do the same thing to someone else. You need to realise that not all families roast each other like that. Not all families rip each other to shreds and say toughen up. You're the a-hole. Read the room, not everyone likes ribbing or being insulted. OP adds an edit below the initial post. So I called him to see if he was home because I wanted to talk, and he said yes. I quickly showed up with flowers. It was a short walk, we live just a few blocks away from each other. I apologised again, explaining that I didn't mean to hurt him. I promised never to make jokes about his height again and handed him the flowers. He looked super happy and told me that no one ever bought him flowers before. We hugged and it felt so good. He invited me in, and after a bit of talking, I finally told him how much I like him. Nick seemed beyond shocked. He said the jokes made him think I was disgusted with him or something, which only made him feel worse because he had feelings for me as well. Everything's okay now, and I even got a kiss. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Your reward, a brand new pair of Apple AirPods Pro. To claim this reward, make sure you like, subscribe, and send me a brand new pair of Apple AirPods Pro. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any thoughts on any of the stories, please leave a comment, and I'm sure I'll see you on the next video.